Good evening. Thanks for tuning in. This is lesson 6.8. This lesson is on percent of change. And the symbol we use a lot for change is the Greek capital letter D, delta, and it looks like this. We see that a lot in science, and we see it a lot in mathematics, pretty much from this point of pre-algebra forward. So we're looking at percent of change. And we're going to solve these. We're going to set them up as is over of equals percent over 100 problems for the most part. And so let's get started and let's see what we can do. All right, so first let's define what percent of change is. Okay, the percent of change is defined to be the percentage we get when we divide the amount of change. The amount of change by the original amount. And you can see by all of the highlighting I put around the original amount that this is where people go wrong. This is the number one mistake people make when they're doing percent of change problems. Okay, and you'll see in a second, because whenever we're doing a change, we're always changing from one number to another number. So figuring out the change, everybody does fine. But then you have two numbers. Which one do you put on the bottom? And so clearly, I don't know how much more possibly clear I could make this. Okay, look, it's the original amount, the one you start with. It's always the first number that goes on the bottom here. Okay? All right, so let's do an example quick to see what we're talking about. So suppose my average in math class starts at an 80 and it goes up to an 84. And I want to find what is the percent of change. Now, clearly if I go from 80 to 84, I've gone up. So that's an increase. Okay? I could also have gone from 80 down to 76, and that would be looking for the percent of decrease. Okay? All right, so I'm out of room on this particular slide, so let's go ahead and take a look at how we solve this problem. How do we find the percent of increase from 80 to 84? All right, well, according to this definition right here, we have the amount of change. We've got to figure that out. We can do that in our heads. What's the change from 80 to 84? It's 4, right? And what do we put underneath on the bottom for the original amount? Obviously the 80, because that's what I started with. So let's go ahead and solve this problem. Okay, so from 80 to 84, as we just said, let's find the difference. So we're going to put the bigger number on top and the smaller number on the bottom. Doesn't matter whether we're going up or down, just find the difference. And the difference is 4. Okay, now we're going to take 4, and just like we said, we're going to put it over the original amount, the one we started with, the 80. Okay, so this is where we started. So this is the number that goes down here. And we're going to set it up equals to percent over 100. Now to solve this, let's solve it like we did just the other day. Let's cross multiply and divide. We need a variable there for the percent, so we'll put it in x. So 80 times x is 4.100. Let's go ahead and divide both sides by 80. Okay, I cancel out the 80s on the left, and on the right, I got a lot of good canceling, don't I? The 4 and the 80 canceled out, I got 1 and 20. Okay, and then the 20 and the 100 canceled out, and I got 1 and 5. So I'm left with just 1 times 5 over 1. So the answer is 5, and that is a percent increase. And usually, actually, when I have a percent like this, actually I probably would have written this down here. Let's bring this down here. It's a x equals 5% increase. Okay? All right. Now, always remember when you're going up or down. It's obvious whether you're going up or down, but always make sure you state that, kind of like putting in the units on a word problem. So in this case, we went from an 80 up to an 84, so that was a 5% increase. Interestingly enough, that hypothetical problem I did a second ago, if we'd gone from an 80 down to a 76, the change still would have been 4 points. We still would have started with an 80, so we would have actually got the same percentage, except then we would have a 5% decrease. All right? All right, so that's the idea. That's how you find percent of change. You're going to find the change, and then you're going to divide by the original amount. Now remember that. That's obviously going to be in the daily quiz tomorrow. All right, so I'm going to give you 3 problems, A, B, and C. I want you to compute the percent of change. First, from 50 to 57, that's obviously an increase. Second, from 2.0 to 3.2, again an increase. And finally, C, from 9.6 down to 7.2. Okay, so for each of these, you're going to have to do 2 parts. You're going to find the change, and you're going to put it over the original amount. And I'll give you a little hint for this first one. Obviously, the original amounts are the ones we start with. Okay, so those are the numbers that are going to go on the bottoms when you do each of these changes. So I'd like you to do these on your own. Preferably on the little notes section of your daily quiz or whatever piece of paper you happen to have with you right now. Wherever you write it, though, please bring it up to class so we can talk about it tomorrow, or actually I guess it'll be on Monday. But go ahead and pause me now and do these three problems. Remember, find the change and then find the percent. Okay, pause now. Okay, welcome back. All right, on the first one, I'm not going to actually show the work to do the subtraction. Obviously, the change is equal to 7. That's how you got to do to show your work. Delta equals 7. Okay, so let's set up our proportion. It's going to be change over the original amount is equal to x over 100. And I can probably do this one without even cross multiplying. What do you do to change 50 into 100? You just double it, right? So double 7, and I get it, x equals 14. Now, it's easy to stop there. Don't forget, that's a percent. And we're going from 50 up to 57, so we're going to put at least an INC here. That's all you got to write. So this one, part A, you should have got a 14% increase. Okay? Do the same thing for the second one. You should have found that the change here is 1.2. Agreed? Okay, now take 1.2 and divide it by 2.0. Is equal to x over 100. Now we have decimals in this one, so I'm going to cross multiply and divide. I get 2.0x, or just 2x. Let's actually change that. Let's get rid of that 0.0. Let's just call it 2x, and that's going to equal 1.2 times 100. And normally I say just put the dot in, but since this is a decimal and we're multiplying by 100, let's go ahead and take advantage of the fact that when you multiply by 100, it just moves the decimal over 2. So it's going to move 1.2, it's going to move the decimal 2 to the right. So I get 2x equals 20. Divide both sides by 2, and I get x is equal to 60%. You don't even have to think about that. Now, again, remind yourself we're going up from 2 to 3.2, so that, again, that would be an increase. 60% increase. Okay? The last one, what you should have done is found that the change on this one, this one is a little bit harder, so let's go ahead and show the work. 9.6 minus 7.2, the change was 2.4. All right, so let's put 2.4 on the top. Let's put the original number, which is 9.6 on the bottom, is equal to x over 100. Now I can cross multiply this one as well. Although if I notice right here, what I've got going on here, if I take the decimal out of 2.4 and 9.6, I get 24 over 96. And if you look at that closely, what is 24 times 4? Well, 24 doubled to be 48, and 48 doubled to be 96. So that's actually equivalent to the ratio of 1 to 4. Well, if it's 1 to 4, I think I know what the percent is. It's going to be a 25%. And we're going from 9.6 down to 7.2, so that's going to be a decrease. Okay? Now, let's go ahead and finish that problem just to double check my math. But sure enough, if I cross multiply and divide, I get 9.6 times x is equal to, again, 100 times a decimal. Let's go ahead and move the decimal. I get 240. And if I divide both sides by 9.6, 240 divided by 9.6 does, in fact, come out to be 25. And so my answer is correct. So let's go ahead and put a box around it. Okay? So that is how we're going to find percent of change. Again, remember, it is always the amount of change again, we're going to use the symbol delta over the original, always the starting number, amount, and that's going to equal percent over 100. So thanks for watching. Hope you have a great rest of the weekend, and I will see you in class on Monday when we'll practice these. All right, bye everybody.